Estamos en vivo. No, somos en vivo. I always mix those two up. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our second Hispanic Latine Heritage Month.
However you
show.
identify as a brown person.
Yes. However, or if you just like to celebrate brown people.
Yeah,
or
if you're an ally.
Mixed people like us who aren't very brown, but we still count.
Do we though?
Well, it depends on who you ask, I guess.
I was going to bring this up maybe, but now it sounds like a good time to transition right into it. But recently, hi everybody, welcome. I hope people are watching.
Welcome.
Before
By the way,
ranting.
if you are watching, if you're watching on YouTube, you can post in the comments there. If you're watching on Facebook, you can post a comment just like you would on a normal post. For some of those of you who may not know how to do that, if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, please do. If you don't follow us on Instagram,
whatever the other ones are,
all those things.
TikTok, I'm getting on top of. We're gonna have some TikTok.
She's getting on top. She's doing it.
I think I know how to do it, kind
of. Joey
and Pammy.
Pammy, hello. And Joey, hello. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. Glad to see us out of trouble. You think this is out of trouble? Hi.
Just a blank.
So you were about to rant.
Well, another thing happened, and this is something I've had to deal with my entire life. And I was, and I've talked about this before, super embarrassed as a kid that I was half Mexican. It was, we grew up in a very white part of Dallas. The church was white, school was white, everything was white. But I was not seen as a white person. And I got a lot of shit for that. So, you would hope, in this day and age, and everybody's progressive and we love everybody and, we're accepting of all Latinas. And if you speak Spanish or you don't, or you're, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, recently, I think it was at a Christian Dior show or Chanel or something, but, my dad's here, the white one.
The white half of your family.
Yeah.
Hi, Jack.
Anya Taylor-Joy, Rachel Ziegler, who played Maria in West Side Story, and what's her name? Who is Wednesday? Cute little half Puerto Rican, half Mexican. What's her name? Oh my gosh.
Oh, her name was everywhere, and now I can't remember.
Everywhere, and it's blanking. And I love Wednesday
because I'm old.
Yeah, I know you guys. Anyways, so Rachel, and I'm gonna have to look it up because I can't.
I'll look it up. You talk. Okay. You talk. I'll look it up.
So Anya Taylor-Joy, incredibly white lady, but she is from Argentina. She's Jenna Ortega. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, he would know. Yeah, thanks. Jen.
Oh,
so Jenna Ortega, Rachel Ziegler, and Anya Taylor-Joy, all of who are Latina from different parts. I think Rachel is Colombian. Jenna Ortega is half Puerto Rican, half Mexican. Anya is from Argentina. Anya is the only one of the group who can speak fluent Spanish. And she was introducing her husband to somebody else in the crowd or whatever. And they're speaking in Spanish. And then she introduces Jenna and Rachel or whatever. And they say hello in English or whatever. They got dragged by other Latinos on social media. They're like, oh, the white one's the only real one. And it's like, no, guys, they are all like, why are we still having this conversation?
It's just so I find it so ignorant. So ignorant. Yeah. And we've talked about it. We have ranted about this before. But because it's just so ignorant to think that if you are of any Latin descent at all, you must be dark skinned. And there is a myriad colors of people from
or also
all
that
over
you speak fluent
South
Spanish.
America, Central America, Mexico, and that you speak. A lot of
Eva
people
Longoria did not. She had to teach herself as an adult. The Castro brothers, who are in politics, and they're all around my age from Texas, kind of grew up in the same way. They had to teach themselves Spanish later on in life. Eric Estrada, by the way, did not speak Spanish until a Mexican soap opera was like, "Hey, we want to hire you," and he was like, "Okay."
Yeah. No, it's hello everybody. We've got lots of friends watching. Hola, nice Pam. See, Pammy speaks Spanish.
I know that
one. But yeah, it is. It's not, you know, here in the States, especially. And look, I think a lot of this happens here. It doesn't happen. I can tell you, in Mexico, this doesn't happen. I can tell you that it doesn't happen. You know, if I go there with my not great Spanish, they're just happy that I'm trying. You know?
Although, anytime I've been to Mexico, in a second they're like, okay, but they don't like rail on you. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
Yeah, well,
no, like and I, you know, nobody tells me I'm not Mexican when I was born in Mexico, and you know, and guess what? We're half. You and I are half. But that it's still part of our culture, and a very strong part of our culture. And it's just, anyway, that's our rant. It's not cool, guys.
Just stop doing it.
It's not cool. We identify very strongly and love our roots, our culture. And I love my Italian culture too, Mom.
Yeah, well, we have to go to that Mexican Italian place. Like that.
Yes, we do. There is a new restaurant, Amiga Amore, in LA.
Park.
It is basically my love child, even though I didn't create it. But
it's like pasta and mole. Like,
yeah.
Like that's something that's literally on the menu.
True, yes, but it sounds amazing. It looks amazing. But it's people like us, you know. So, right, who run it and own it and created these recipes, and great. So, anyway, happy Hispanic Latine Heritage Month. Let's all love each other.
Yes.
And be accepting, and just let us be who we are.
I mean, we all want the same thing. Down with the white man.
Can't we all just get along? Anyway. So a little bit of news today.
Big day. Big day. And big day. News.
One more. Mucho amore. Right back at you.
Well, I mean, I think the big one that we all woke up to, especially here in California, you know, our senator for decades, you know, a strong history in California. Senator Dianne Feinstein passed away at 90 years old.
Yes.
It's an interesting thing because as of late, you know, we have a lot of elderly people, beyond elderly people in the Senate, and I think there was a big, especially with younger progressives, like we're sort of tired, you know. Like I'm a young one.
Yeah. You young kids,
and like the young, you know, like very frustrated with the status quo.
Millennials is what you're talking about. Millennials and younger.
Yeah. Just, you know, like, and I have an issue with that too. Mitch McConnell should not be there. I thought Feinstein should, you know, like you're in your 90s. It's time to. I couldn't believe I agreed with Mitt Romney the other day when he was like, "I'm not running for re-election." And I was like, "Yeah, you're gonna be 80. Go chill.
I mean, just go relax."
But you know, we have to remember, you know, not everybody's perfect, and you know, and there was a lot of really great things that she did, you know, and she stood side by side with Harvey Milk, was there when he was assassinated. That's how she became mayor, because mayor was assassinated alongside Harvey Milk. I mean, I was watching, you know, listening because I was driving around all day, but listening to those hearings in 1993 or whatever, when that other senator, I can't remember his name, but kind of called her out. I was like, you know, being very condescending and misogynistic, saying, maybe you should find out more about firearms or something like that. And she was like, excuse me, you know, like she was very anti-gun. And she was like, excuse me, and like went toe to toe with this guy. I was like, I put my finger in my colleague's bullet hole to try to save his life. I think I know a thing or two about firearms, you know, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's very profound to listen to something like that. So I encourage you, you know, whatever your thoughts were at the end of her life, you know, she did do a lot of great things.
She did commit her life to public service, and
yeah,
I mean, we all know all politicians on all sides are self-serving to a point,
Yeah.
but she did commit herself to a life of public servitude, and you got to respect that. And she did do a lot of good. Yes. And then the other news you told me about, I don't know anything about this.
Oh yeah, you guys. I mean, it's pretty huge news. I mean, they have made an arrest today in Las Vegas in connection to the murder of Tupac, which is 27 years.
I was going to say, isn't it like 25 years ago? Yeah,
27
wow.
years, 1996, which reminded me that I graduated high school 27 years ago.
Here's what I have to say about that.
I was like, oh, that was 27 years ago. Okay.
Oh, it was 27 years ago.
But Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was arrested today. He's 60 years old. He's long been considered a suspect.
What took them so long?
I was trying to find evidence or something. I don't know. But I mean, there's so much drama behind this
years.
Now because it's like, I guess I was reading up on it and watching some videos of past interviews and stuff with this Keefe D guy. And I mean, there's all this stuff that points to P. Diddy is the one who orchestrated this, and he's the one that paid them off to do this. So I'm very interested to see what happens now moving forward.
Whoa.
Because it was kind of long rumored that he was, Diddy was the one who was like, you guys got to do this, and then paid them for the thing.
That will be very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yee.
Yeah. But
and then our last bit of news, it's Olivia Newton-John's birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Olivia. We miss you. We miss you. Favorite Olivia song?
Well, I don't know now, because remember when we decided to sing Xanadu for our show?
Yeah. Yeah. Not so. Yeah. Wasn't great. We did it.
Not in our range.
At all in our range. At all in our range. No. I was a fan of the old Olivia Newton-John, which you were just a baby for. Songs like "I Honestly Love You."
Oh yeah.
Please, Mr. Please, like those songs. Those are my. That's what's 45 years. Oh, that's Pammy. Wow. You win.
It flies by.
It does. Yeah, it flies by. Well, so today we don't have an actual guest, but we are going to feature somebody who made a major impact in the United States, especially in the field of Mexican cooking. So the way this sort of started, many, many years ago, my mother gave me a cookbook that she had used for many years. I think she said she got it in the 60s. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And did you say one of my aunts gave it to you, or you found it? Somebody else gave it to you. But anyway, I'm talking to her like she's right here. But she'll answer. I know she will. Anyway, and then she gave me this book. She ordered one, I think, for my sister, and then gave me also a second book. These are the two books that I have. Elena's, this is the first one that I got. That's the second one I got. Anyway, whenever I cook my staple Mexican dishes, which are generally, she found the book. Generally, I'll cook picadillo, and that's how this is what the recipe I use for Mexican rice. And I've only touched on a couple other recipes. Anyway, that's where they come from. This is the book that they come from, the first book that I got. And it's kind of the same recipes that my family, we all kind of use these recipes because, of course, my mom taught us how to do it. The other day when I was cooking, I looked in the intro. I just got curious. I was bored waiting for something to cook, and I started reading the intro. Had never done that before, and learned that Elena Zelayeta, Elena Zelayeta was blind. She was blind.
Yeah.
And so then I had to go back and go, what the? Because I kept seeing in here, as told to so-and-so. Anyway, I had to go back then and do a deep dive. I sent all this information to my mom and my sisters and sister-in-law, and just like, this woman's amazing. And then I sent it to you. And it's just her story is incredible. Like, first of all, we both tried recipes today from one of the books. I think we both used this book.
Yeah.
So by the way, if you try to find this now, you're going to pay, it's a little ring bound thing that at the time was $2.95. And this was, I think, in the 60s when this version, but it was first written in the 44. You're going to pay like $50 if you can find it. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's not easy to find. I tried because I was like, I'm going to order this for no, I'm not. Anyway, we both tried recipes from there. I tried a recipe that I haven't ever tried from there before. So this time I tried, it was, she called it like a Mexican casserole, but then underneath in Spanish, it said chilaquiles, but it really is more of a chilaquiles casserole. It's not the traditional chilaquiles if you've had those, which are one of my favorite things. So it was.
It is one of my favorite things too, and I always seem to mess mine up. So I wonder so explain this.
So you use your tortillas. Now, one of my aunts told me traditionally you take the tortillas from the day and you put them in a thing on the counter and you just leave them. So you're using stale tortillas on the weekend to make your chilaquiles. I just use my corn tortillas. You cut them up, you fry them up in oil, put them aside, and then it has you fry up some chorizo. I used soy rizo because, of course, I don't eat meat. So I use soy rizo, which I've been eating since before I gave up meat anyway. It's so good.
Yeah.
And then you make what she calls she says to make a little paste using chopped up yellow onions or brown onions and oil and chili powder, and then salt to taste. Now the chili powder. So when I use chili powder, I'm like, shake, shake, shake. This was like 2 tablespoons full. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be, or more, she says, or more to taste. I was like, holy shit. Okay. It's on. And then I was like, okay, so I'm going to follow, and then she has you layer it in the casserole. So you do the sauce, you do your tortillas, you put your chorizo, you put your it has little olives. She tells you to cut up or have little cut olives on it, which I never do that. I use cut pitted green olives. All of a sudden we're a cooking show, CNC and cooking.
But I love it because I feel like we should do this for the rest of the month until the 15th. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so into that. Anyway, little green olives in it. And that's it. That's kind of it. It was a very simple recipe. You throw it in the oven. That's supposed to serve 10. It's going to serve 1. Once it was done cooking, I will confess, I'm waiting to eat my dinner right now. This is my dinner right now too. So got it. But I did scoop out a little bit and then also cook it in with some egg whites this morning to make it a breakfast chilaquiles. And it was delicious. And so now I've got my dinner chilaquiles.
Nice.
Chilaquiles are for any time of day.
It's one of my favorite things.
And then
but
what
I've never made it like that.
Oh, and she does say to layer cheese into, because this is more like a casserole. So you can use cheese or not if you're going to do casserole style. But I will say it's some of the best flavor I've had. I mean, it tastes like when you go to a Mexican restaurant, it literally tastes like that.
Oh, nice.
Like when you go for your enchiladas or chilaquiles in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it tastes like. All right, so now I'm going to eat while you tell your story.
Okay. Well, I did. So fideo is my jam. It's like one of our staples growing up that we ate all the time. But I have noticed since moving out of Texas and stuff, like what we made is very different from what I find out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I saw that she has a recipe for sopa de fideo. So I was like, I'm going to try that. I have all the ingredients. And again, very simple. Like there's not a whole lot of stuff. I have my bowl right there. But again, it was like the very first instruction is to pour in one whole cup of oil into your pan. A whole cup. I've not used a whole cup of oil
ever.
I mean, in anything at one time.
Mm-mm.
But I was like, okay, we're gonna do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so like and very much more streamlined than how we make it at home. So it was just the vermicelli. You toast that in the oil, then you remove that. That's typical. And then it was just like sauteing the onion and chopped tomato in the same oil. Then putting in 2 cups of chicken broth, bringing that to a boil, and then putting the noodles back in, and then letting it sit for 30 minutes. And salt and pepper, and that's it. And it's so simple, and it's so good. I mean, again, like I've never, like we always made it, like we boiled the noodles in just water. So, and ours is much heartier. Like what we made at home, it's ground beef, tomato sauce, all this other stuff.
Sure.
But this is very simple and so flavorful. I was like, okay, so a cup of oil and everything then.
There you go. 2 tablespoons of chili powder.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
Who knew?
So, cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Cheers. Yeah. All right. If show's over, we're going to eat now. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but really, truly, it's delicious. And I can't believe I never made this out of the book. So, this one actually is from this book, the Fiesta Recipes.
Oh.
So not from the first book. This is from this book. But so yes, absolutely. It's so delicious. I'm so happy with it. And the fideo, like I know our family usually does have some tomato in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think, obviously everybody adapts the recipes.
Yeah. Well, this has tomato in it, but we have like tomato sauce.
You do a ton.
Yeah.
When I was sending the information to my mom and my sisters, my mom read some of it and realized that where she's from is very close to where my father and my aunts were from. So I said, that might be, maybe that's why her cooking, her style of cooking is so familiar to us. It tastes like our family's cooking. And so that might be a regional thing.
Totally.
But I do want to, I want to tell people about Elena. So, she was born in Mexico City in 1898. She, after the Mexican Revolution, which who can say that? After the Mexican Revolution, her family fled here, moved up to San Francisco when she was like, I think she said, they said 10 or 11 years old. She moved up to San Francisco. That's where she stayed for the rest of her life, was up there, up in the Bay Area, up there. She and her husband actually had good jobs until the Depression hit. They both lost their jobs in 1930-ish. And then they lost their home and their car. So everything it was the Great Depression. So we know how that went. So in order to, by the way, she was a secretary. So she was, I had wondered before, because in the books it says, as she told before I knew she was blind, as told to so-and-so, right? And I thought, oh, maybe she wasn't very educated, maybe she couldn't write, or maybe because she couldn't speak English or something. I didn't bother to look it up. But yeah, she was a secretary. So she obviously could read and write and was, educated. And so she starts, because of all of that, she opened a restaurant. One of the things she knew she could do well was cook. She learned from her mother, who was Spanish, and from the cooks in the kitchen at her family's. Well, yes, that's true. My mom is pointing out that my grandparents, great yelling, and uncles were part of the revolution. Yes, we have photos to prove that, and people on documents.
She didn't lose her sight until she was 36.
Right. So she, because of earlier in her life having scarlet fever. That's why. But so in the 30s, so she started in like sometime in the 1930, started cooking out of her home. So she learned from her mother, who was Spanish, and from the cooks in the hotel that her family owned in Pachuca, Mexico. And then so she started cooking from her home, and people would come to her house. She had opened a restaurant in her home, and they would sit in different rooms of her house, and she would serve them, and it became very, very popular. And because it was a style of cooking that nobody was really doing. It was Mexican food, and people didn't really know it. It was at a time when Mexicans weren't very well accepted at the time. It was the Depression, and people were worried about losing their jobs, much like now. There, Zoot Suit riots, all of that is all sort of a background for all of this. That's a little later, but anyway, in 1933, then, because of the success of this, and jump in whenever you feel like, cut me off, because I've just got my little list of things.
No, keep going, because no.
In 1933, she opens Elena's Mexican Village, an actual proper restaurant in the St. George Hotel in San Francisco. So now she's got this very popular restaurant. It's one of the only games in town if you like Mexican food, and it's she's she's very successful. She's pulled her family now out of complete poverty because of her skills with cooking. And then tragedy strikes. She, when she was younger, had scarlet fever. And little by little over the years, she was losing her eyesight. She ended up with a detached retina. So in 1934, it started getting really, really bad. So this is, mind you, a year after she opens her restaurant. 1934, she loses her eyesight completely. She says that I watched my sight go. I would look in the mirror. I gradually saw my image grow dimmer and dimmer. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just devastating. And for somebody who was so vital and she's just starting to pull her family out of all of this. Just devastating. So devastating that she attempted suicide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She attempted to throw herself out of their 7-story window. Lorenzo, her husband, caught her in time, found her about to do it, and stopped her. And thank goodness, 2 months later, her second child was born. So she was pregnant and still felt like she had nothing to live for. Like, how devastating is that? But she had her second child, which she refers to sort of as her Easter, as her rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
And it still took her a couple years to start to come back from that and from the devastation of losing her sight. And then a couple years in 38. So this is now 4 years after she's lost her sight. She decides she has to start trying to live like she used to live before she lost her sight. So she started to her attitude completely changed. She started to sort of embrace what had happened to her and make jokes about it. Like, in my eyes, people don't age. You're always beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
So in 44, she starts teaching cooking for the blind. She's teaching at the San Francisco Center for the Blind. So she is at that time, the only cooking teacher for the blind. And so she's in high demand. She ends up going to other places to do this. In Mexico City, she's requested to come back there. She starts a sort of rehabilitation program for the blind. She talks about one student who was well known to not bathe or shower or anything. And she decided that had to stop. And so she escorted him to the bathroom so that he could to make him shower. And he was protesting, and her response was like, "What's the difference? We're both blind as a bat."
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, she wasn't going to say anything. But that's, she's noted for having a great sense of humor, for having, turned things around. She had a great sense of humor. So things are starting to pick up for her. She's getting a lot of recognition for this, for cooking again. The love of the joy of cooking is back in her life again. And then in 1945, her husband dies in a car crash. His vehicle was flipped over by a Greyhound bus. But what does she do? In 1947, she writes her second book. Oh, did I skip? I skipped. In 44, I mentioned it earlier. 44 was when she wrote her first cookbook, which was the Elena's famous Mexican and Spanish recipes. But yes, in 1947, 2 years after her husband dies, she writes her second book, Elena's Lessons in Living, which is just a book. It's just her view on life. And I've got it downloaded. You can find it to download. I have not found a copy of it.
Before Linda Richman.
It's true. Just keep picking yourself up and sweeping yourself off. I mean, it's incredible. So she writes her second book. By 1950, she is the foremost authority in Mexican cooking in the United States. So here's a woman who fled the Mexican Revolution, comes here, starts a restaurant, out of the Depression, starts a restaurant, loses her eyesight, tries to kill herself. Her husband dies, all of these things. And she just keeps coming back. She just keeps persevering. She's the most resilient person. Because of her recognition now for this, in 1950, she is asked to do a cooking show. It's a short 15-minute show on KGO San Francisco. We do have a clip from that, so I want to show this, and then we'll show some of it. We're not going to show the whole thing, obviously. You can find this, or text me and I'll send you a clip. But you can find this. But I'm going to show just a little bit of it because we're going to talk about it a little bit afterwards. So let's just see this. When Elena cooks, it's when Elena cooks, it's fun to eat.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to make pickled tuna fish for you today. Is that you, Billy?
Yes, Mother.
Well, honey, how did the fishing come?
I'd rather not say.
Oh, really? Didn't you bring me one of those tuna fishes that we can use on with the recipe?
Just a second, I'll lay my rod down.
Oh, let's see. I'm so anxious.
You promise you won't tell anybody?
I promise, darling, but let's look. What have you? Oh, how wonderful. You mean, darling, do you think that this is all you got?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, darling. Let me see. Oh, darling, that is. Oh, Billy. But I promise, darling, I won't tell a soul about it. Now you go and put your whale away.
She's shitting on his fishing.
Meantime, I'll start telling our viewers about
On
the tuna.
television.
Now I
Like,
will
I don't wanna do this
the
anyways.
spices for the pickled tuna. I have here a 4-ounce can in my refrigerator of mushrooms. I'm going to put that in here. Oh, my goodness gracious, why don't I do this? Now, there's this is just the liquid of the mushrooms that I'm using. And the mushrooms are going to go right into the tuna like this. Then I have here 1/3 cup of vinegar, and I like, hi son, and I like wine vinegar. So, now I'm going to add to that. Here, son, you see the little parents there? All right, give me a teaspoon. You better get to work. You haven't done very much today. Fish, that's all you've done. 1 teaspoon. All right, fine. To this, we're going to add the half an onion, a clove of garlic, and 1/2 bay leaf, because you can use too much bay leaf. I like bay leaf, but not
Well, you should tell
overdone.
people nowadays.
Now this is
Too much Bailey.
chili pickins, or you can use anything that you want in the line. You can even use the chili powder. I prefer not to, but you can.
She loves
I
her
like
chili powder.
in other things, but not in this one.
Mhm.
Not in this one.
Now, and a teaspoon. Well, I'll tell you, Billy. Where's the salt? You put the salt right in front of Mother. And I'm going to guess at the salt because I don't think I miss it too much. As a matter of fact, I'd be willing to bet $5 if that is a teaspoon, but there it goes. Now, Bill, will you be so
$5
kind
is
as
a
to
lot.
put this over to the stove, and when it comes to the boiling point, will you bring it back to Mother, please? Now, I'm going to do the next step, which, of course, is to tell you that this recipe you may find in my cookbook. But in the cookbook, I have the fresh tuna. And being that that is not available at all times of the year, I thought it would make it a lot easier for you if I use the canned tuna. How you coming, son?
Fine, Mother.
All right, I think that should be ready, darling.
All right.
Yes, I think so. Will you bring it over to me?
I mean, I could watch this all night, but
All right, darling, have you got a cup holder?
Boiled that fast?
All right, fine. That's good. Oh, that isn't too fast, my goodness. Now we're going to put
They
all
might have
this
prepared.
into the tuna.
Mhm.
Now, I wonder if you take that away.
Oh,
from
I
me.
wanna
Leave it
do
over
this
on the
one.
stove. Anyways, it's
Mhm.
fine.
I can't
Now,
I like
I'll
tuna.
tell you
Yeah.
what I want you to bring for me, Billy. Now we're going to stir this into it. And will you be so kind, Billy, as to bring me the large refrigerator where we're going to store...
Refrigerator.
Doesn't that look good? Bring me the
those
one
are their
that is
storage
open in the-
containers,
on the
refrigerators.
sink. You know where the sink? All right. Bring me that. And bring the water because I want to show our viewers how easy it is to use the refrigerator. Fine. Now we'll uncover this.
Isn't that funny?
Here we go. Now we're going to put everything into the refrigerator. I suppose I could do this.
Yeah.
I think so. There. Am I spilling any of it, son? Am I doing pretty good?
He's
I do
like,
know that
she's
it's
doing
not
great.
refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly. Like my reaction right now.
But you really don't have to worry. Now look at me. I can't
She's
see it
very
yet.
skilled.
It's easy. So I'm sure
right.
you won't have any trouble. Where's my water, Billy?
Right here, Mother.
Wonderful. There. Now you tip just
It's just fascinating to me. This is
water, dip them
fascinating.
in there. Just simply cover this. Be sure that the top of the
Oh,
refrigerator
look how this
nice
is
and
sealed.
full. Dampen it. Press it down
Mm.
like this, and there you are. Now Billy,
There you
put
are.
this over.
All
to
right.
The sink again, and we'll put it into.
So anyway, there's Elena. So you can see she's, she's just good humored. What's amazing about watching this clip is that if you didn't know she was blind, you might just think she's a little fumbly, but she's not like, it's incredible to me that she was able to do all this. I mean, of course they set things out for her, but how on earth did she do this? And Billy goes to get the things for her. So the thing that's really fascinating about how they figured this out and how to do this for television is that they tied strings to her ankles and somebody would tug or pull on the right or left foot depending on where she should go or what camera she should be looking at.
Wow.
I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's pretty seamless. Like you see it, and it's pretty seamless. I think it's fascinating. But she ended up with her own show. It's like it's incredible to me. She ended up with her own show. I don't have any information about how long it lasted, but she went from that to creating a line of frozen foods because freezers for the home were becoming a bigger thing and more affordable. So a frozen food line that she created. She was consulting for Lowry's. She then in 58 she made the Fiesta recipes. I'm sorry, 52 Fiesta recipes, which is this one. When I made my dish from, which why aren't I eating it? Because I know I'm talking too much.
No, well, go ahead and finish. I have a couple of things.
Well, I'm just gonna. So in 50, and then in 58, she does Secrets of Mexican Cooking, which New York Times says is the definitive volume on the subject. And then in 58, she also wrote her memoir. It might have been a little after that, but she wrote a memoir just called Elena. And then in 1974, she had a stroke and she passed away. But what a life! My God.
No, it's pretty incredible. I mean, like I have to look it up because I just saw this video like as I was working today, but there was this young man, this food critic, who included her in his book that he wrote of like seven influential women of color in the United States who were as influential as Julia Child. Like,
wow,
you know, and I'll look it up later and I'll post it on our stories and our Instagram and social media. But it's incredibly. She reminded me of a couple of people. She reminded me of my own grandmother, and she reminded me of another incredible Latina artist, Alicia Alonso, who was a prima ballerina, but who also lost her eyesight. And somehow, you know, you just adjust, you know, like life throws you these horrible curveballs and you figure out how to keep going. My grandmother had a stroke when she lost her the same age, like 35 or 36.
Wow.
I never even knew like it was a handicap or a disablement, anything, because we had
kept going.
Homemade tortillas every day, you know, like she cooked, she did whatever, you know, like it was never, so I just find it incredible. Yeah.
It's inspiring. It's really inspiring that, you know, I've got my dog's yelling at me now. It's just inspiring somebody who had such a hard life, and many people have. And like you mentioned, Linda Richmond, we had her on a couple months ago, and people who take these tragedies in their lives and turn it around and become these, they're sort of, they just become these sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody write a word quick. But it's their inspirations. They're on how to continue and to live, and still get joy out of life, to still find joy.
And I think a lot of it has to do with all of these things, whether it's cooking or performing in a ballet or whatever, being a ballerina. These are acts of service, you know. I think in order to, you know, like you're performing, you want to bring joy to people, you're cooking, you are bringing sustenance and joy and whatever, you know, to people, like you're giving of yourself to help others. I think that helps a lot. You know, you learn this in therapy and stuff like that. You know, like to be of service gets you out of your own self and go, okay, so what can I do? How can I be better? And how can I, you know, use my talents or whatever? And we shift and we adjust, and we all go through things, and we all go through hard times. And it's like, okay, where, you know,
what next?
Turn this around, or, you know, just be present.
How do you move forward? And it shows that there is always a way forward.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because if people do get, you know, you start to think there's nothing else for me. I don't, why on earth would I go for it? And then if she had stopped when she tried to kill herself, if that had worked, all of this never would have happened. Never would have happened.
And we all have that. She had that moment. We all have that moment of like, I can't do this anymore. And then whatever reason, somebody else intervenes, or you have some, you know, realization,
epiphany,
whatever, then, you know, then you're able to get past it. But, you know, it's not unusual, and it's not, you know, she's not like, you know, a godlike person who's better than all of us. She went through the same struggles, but that's what she did. That's what she was able to accomplish too, you know.
Yeah. She kept going. She kept going, and she found a new way to spread her joy, the thing that made her happy. It's just.
No, I was going to make a dumb joke. Go ahead.
No, I don't know what I was going to say. But anyway, I find her fascinating. I now want to cook everything, except that so much of it is meat. But
I think that's what I was going to say. I was like, maybe that should be our TikTok series. Is like we cook all of her recipes.
Let's do it.
We go through her recipe.
I was actually thinking we should do like a Elena's recipes cooking show always, but her family might have something to say about it.
But my dad texted me.
Yeah,
he's doing some research for us.
Good.
You can find her book on eBay for fairly cheap, $15.
Great.
$10.
Which book?
All of them, both of them.
Great.
They're both on eBay. Yeah.
Good.
$15.99, $15.95. Yeah.
I encourage you to buy them, friends. Please. They are really great recipes.
Because it's also a part of our history, you know, like that's really cool. That's something that, you know, it informs where we came from.
And here's what struck me really was that, how did I never hear about her before? Other than like, I knew she was the woman. I knew the name vaguely from the cookbook that I used all the time. I'd heard the name.
But if she was that influential, if she was that, you know,
how did I never hear of her? Yeah.
Because Lowry.
So anyway, Elena Zelayeta, friends, go find her books. The recipes are worth it. I think you'll find, because it is sort of, especially like what I'm eating tonight, is very much sort of the California Mexican, I think.
Totally. Absolutely.
You know, that we identify. Yeah. So I think if you like eating in Mexican restaurants in California, this is what you need to get, this cookbook. Do it yourself at home. They are easy recipes. They really are. She wasn't about it. Nothing's complicated. Nothing's complicated because she tried to make it accessible, and it was, it's how you cook back at home, right? So yes, I recommend it.
Weather, guys, for the next couple of days.
That's right. So stay home and do some cooking. Anyway, we wanted to share her with you because we both found her so interesting, fascinating, inspiring. So I hope you enjoy it too. I've got a lot of chilaquiles to eat.
Maybe we should do Alicia Alonso next. Let's do it. Dive on her. Yeah, she's pretty incredible. And I got to see her in person live. I thought people were clapping for me as I walked into this theater in Cuba. They were not. They were clapping for their prima ballerina, who is Claudia. And I was like, oh my God.
Thank you so much.
She just happened to appear in her box as I walked in. I was like, oh.
Pammy, happy belated birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Aw, happy birthday.
Everybody say happy birthday to Pammy. Everybody who's commenting, say happy birthday, Pammy. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. We will let you know we will do at least one more in this series before October 15th, which is the end of the Heritage Month. It should be all year though, so maybe we'll just continue. We'll just keep going. We'll be rebels.
Yeah,
We'll-
that's
we'll
fun.
take
Maybe like
We'll
history
take
and
you from Elena. We'll just persevere, even though it's not Hispanic Heritage Month. All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and we will see you very soon. Adios.
Adios.
Adios.